Welcome back to the Well-Beings Podcast. This month we're discussing technology as the theme. We're going to get things started with discussion this time. So a question that I have for the panel is, at what point does technology stop helping us and start replacing our intuition? I want to pose this question to Adriana first to just pick your brain and see where you're at with it.
For me, it starts to become a hindrance when it's no longer a tool. Because that's the position that I have with it. Like, technology is a tool. You are supposed to use it. We are supposed to evolve and find a way to adapt to using it as a tool. When we start to depend on it and like get into, I would say for me, strange things like relationships with AI and things like that. That's when things get a lot actually muddled. That in the younger generation of people, not being able to stop with technology, no matter what type of technology it is. It could be TV, it could be gaming, it could be socials, or whatever the case may be. It seems as if they're physically incapable of giving it a break. And when they do, it seems like they go off the handle. Like, when I say they, I mean people, a lot of people actually, 25 years and younger. There are older people that are like that too, but it's more of a super concern for those brains that are still in development. So that's my position on it. Like, continue to take ownership of the fact that we need tech as a tool, but we don't need tech. You know what I mean? Like, there's a duality to it, just like anything else.
For sure. Yeah, I get where you're coming from with it. And just having a child or children that are in the household, right? And seeing them use the devices and putting limitations on device use and hearing, oh, I'm bored, but then they get over it. And they find something else to do because they don't need it. They'll start with a friend, they'll play a game or whatever with each other, and not even on like TV. Like, between the young boys in the house, they start roughhousing, and that's all because like at least there's some type of interaction going on. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure it doesn't get too out of control. But the one thing I think, like, it starts replacing our intuition when we just go to it for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, in finding out this recipe about something you got, instead of going to somebody elder in your family, you might go to a YouTube video for something or ask Google, how do you make such and such? When we have people in our lives that we can get on a phone call with or go spend some time with. So that's what I think. You know, the technology is very useful, and not just the digital technology, just the appliances we have, the things that we use in everyday lives. It's here to help us. But then we also have to be mindful of overuse of technology. What are your thoughts, though, Caroline? What you thinking on it?
Yeah, I agree. I find that if I use Chat GPT, I tend to use Gemini more now, but I use it for research rather than to think for me. Because I do find that, like you said, it can play with your intuition if you rely on things. And I do feel slower. I feel like I can feel my brain like clunking through things rather than having that speedy, because I think I'm going to go off a little bit, but I was watching a podcast, Trevor Noah, and he's talking about neurodivergence. And I've said it before, I'm quite confident I'm on that scale somewhere. But I know that I've got a quick mind, which is what needs me to be occupied in different things and have different things going on. Do you know what I mean? And I think we all align with that, really. So me feeling like my cognition is slowing down is not something that I'm comfortable with, I find it if I watch TV too much. I find it if I'm on devices, and definitely using AI. I can't use it to think for me. I refuse to do that. But I think it's a brilliant tool. So yeah, and I think spiritually, AI is the technological version. Again, it's how deep is the rabbit hole, because we are a technology and everything is technology, but it is the version in this 3D of the divine download. And for me, I'd rather get the divine download, get it from the source of all things in the purest way, than have something provided to me that essentially is a culmination of what already exists. So I've seen a lot of people say that lately as well, that AI is giving you, it's just going through what's on the internet. It's giving you what's already there. It's not creating from fresh. If you want to create create something new and innovative and cosmic, it's the only place to go, innit? That's my thought.
Yeah, it's interesting you just brought that up. I took some screenshots the other day because I was doing a search on just Gemini, Chat GPT, and things like that. And some of the questions I asked, the answers I got back were interesting in regards to it just being like that almost instant search library. So one thing I asked, it says, does Google Gemini think for itself? And said, no, Google Gemini does not think for itself. I do not have a conscious mind, beliefs, or independent thoughts. My responses are the result of mathematical calculations predicting the most logical sequence of words based on your prompt. So that's all it's doing. It's only getting back what we give, or giving us back what we ask. And
only regurgitates.
We can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when it shows you the results of your search as well and all the sources, you can go to the sources of where, I was using it the other day for some research for my course, and the speed is ridiculous. Like, talking 3 seconds, I'm like, look at this and give me this.
Yeah.
How did you do that? But
how did you do that?
Right.
But I can't take what it gives me as the answer.
Right.
Because it gives falsities as well, you know what I mean? So it's just quicker than Google. For me, it's a more evolved, like Google's good, but if you want something way more concise than a Google search, get on an AI.
Right. Yeah. What about for you, Tone?
So I feel, at what point does technology stop helping us and start replacing our intuition? Honestly, I feel like we're already at that point. I feel like we have an understanding that technology is beneficial in its parts, right? There's enhancement. It alleviates extra time in doing things, right? However, there are people, especially younger people, for older people who have already lived before the ages of the advancements of this technology. A lot of those people already understand intuition. They know how to listen to the intuition, even if they don't always follow it. You have younger people now, younger YNs, YLs, whatever. They never really had the opportunity, I would say, to get an understanding of intuition and how it works and trust it and this and the third. They came up off of the technologies that are, right? So you do have kids now that argue with their parents and go to ChatGPT for advice and get the advice for ChatGPT, and they'll tell their parents that Chat said that they was right. You have young kids who are unfortunately unaliving their parents or their loved ones or whatever because of what they're reading off of ChatGPT. You have people who go on Instagram and will get tarot card readings more than they would sit there and feel and get an understanding of what's going on in the energy field around them. Like, this is really what's happening in our time today. Today, you have people who get up and first thing in the morning and they'll get on their phone and they'll be on social media and they'll check their likes and they'll check for validation for those things. All of those things go against your intuition. So I feel we are right now at that point to answer the question. That's what I say to that question.
I think, can I say, I think it's important to really recognize what you just said. Because I said before on a piece about the generational difference. And even my children are seeing the difference because they weren't born into it. So smartphones came in when they were like 7 and 8, or 6 and 7, I think. So that 0 to 7 development stage where literally they're just a sponge being programmed, it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see how, I see it all the time. Me and my mum were talking about it the other day, how easy it is to fall into the reliance of it. I've seen toddlers in buggies, you know, with a smartphone or an iPad, because it keeps them quiet, you know, it does the job. But what is misunderstood, because I don't think really, if I know if the parents understood what that is doing, they wouldn't do it. Because what comes out later, it doesn't come out then, it comes out at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7, when they start to act mad challenging. And then their brains are being set. So like, it is, if you really think about it, and it is a Western world problem, it's not a global issue. There's certain places that are more at risk, but it's quite scary to think what kind of youths are going to come out. Seriously, like, what kind of youths are going to, with no empathy, social anxiety, addictions to all sorts of electronical things, including gaming, porn. You know, you've already got.
They're going to be programmed to the propaganda. They're going to be programmed to the propaganda, whatever the programming that's going to be going and that's what's happening now. That's crazy. That is scary, actually, when you think about it.
But there's bigger forces at work, and those bigger forces, you know, the unseen forces, I think, you know, they're gonna do their job.
Yep, I'm always rooting for them. I'm always rooting for the light. Yeah.
To your point, Caroline, I think that's also in action right now too. The infiltration, right? Like I don't disagree with anything you're saying. You know I do. I'll just add to that, the attention span is up. The mosquito is crazy to me too, and I see that in real time. But I think conversations like the ones we have and the ones that we see that are actually valid, no disrespect to everybody, but there are some people who don't know and don't have that lived experience. But the people that do, that are putting out that information, and the kids that want it, children that want it, are going to be the reason why we don't have as big of a problem as it seems like we do. Speaking to the higher power of it all, there's balance in everything, right? So I don't think that the universe, God, however you choose to, identify with the higher power, is going to allow things to just self-destruct. Like I think that's why people are changing their minds. That's why they're getting mental health help. That's why they're speaking out. Like I don't think any of that is by accident, because you have to make a conscious choice to do that.
Yeah. I've had a lot of young people that I've worked with just come off it because it's caused them so much distress and depression. And once they've been able to pull themselves out of it, and no one around them could pull them out of it, but once they pulled themselves out of it, they're like, I'm not going back to that. So I think there's going to be a lot of self-correction, and I think there's a lot of young people showing young people. So an 18-year-old saying to a 10-year-old is different to my 46-year-old backside telling them, you know what I mean?
That's interesting because I went through a 14-day cleanse.
I was just about to ask you.
It was not just about internal, with food. One part of it, they also included to cleanse from social media. And in that time, I thought, this is cool. I don't know if I'm going back on social media. So the only social media that I did go back to for the sake of keeping in communication with y'all and family is WhatsApp and YouTube to an extent. Like I didn't put YouTube back on my phone, but I go to YouTube on my desktop. So the only social media that I'm really involved with right now is WhatsApp. And that's like the baby version. I do see though what was just brought up in as far as me trying to tell my 12-year-old son that you gotta limit your time on TikTok is not gonna get through like maybe somebody that's 16 or 18 would be able to get through, because they're sharing a certain type of experience when it comes to use, where my experience with use is like, it's kind of icky for me. With him, it might be, this is just what I'm doing to pass time, and he doesn't see any harm in it. But for someone that's closer to his age, they can break it down like, look what it's doing though. But coming from me, with anything too, just social media, I can say, back in my days, I did that, and this was what happened. But he's not trying to hear about back in my days. So,
but he will listen to the person on TikTok telling him that.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the infiltration. Like there are people in that age bracket doing the work that we want, that we're hoping to instill upon the children, and just let them do it. You know what I'm saying? Like they listen for whatever reason. Like if they'll listen and do something as wild as a slap challenge, which is wild to me, they'll also listen when somebody says, hey, take a breather. And that's showing itself. Both sides are showing themselves right now.
What technology has become so essential to your life that you couldn't imagine functioning without it? Do you believe that that's empowerment or dependency? I'm going to read that again. What technology, what piece of technology, it could be your phone, it could be a web page, it could be a specific site. What piece of technology has become so essential in your life that you couldn't imagine functioning without it? Do you believe that is empowerment or dependency? And I want Caroline. We could see. I want to see what you have to say, but I know you moving along. So let's get your input.
Well, mine is probably, some kids would probably say that ain't technology, but I can hear it whirring in the background, and it's my washing machine. And I think anything like that, because like when I hear my mom talk about watching her grandmother, and you're washing for days, you know what I mean? They're washing things and they're washing for days and putting them out in the sun to dry. And Mom, when we were younger, Mom used to do that For certain, she was over the top. Mum went deep, mate. But she'd be scrubbing the clothes as well, you know. She had one of them scrubber things, and she'd scrub the things, and then they'd go in the washing machine as well. So we had sparkling whites. But I think, you know, all those little gadgets that make life more efficient, day-to-day life. Yeah.
That's so good, because you want to know what? I promise you, I did not even think wash and dry, and that is how far back technology has, like, you know what I'm saying? We've been dealing with the advancements of technology for so long. It's getting scary now because where we've gotten with and how fast it's progressing now. But we've been dealing with technology for a long time, because that is something that, like, you, from hand washing, something electrical, plug it in, put your clothes in, put the soap, boom, boom, let it shimmy, shimmy. Yeah, right. And okay, I hear you. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have no way to wash my clothes. Dang. Not even washing, it's the wringing out part. That's gonna be
and
scary.
right, because it's not like the weather always permits us over here to dry our clothes outside. So
You
another
in
part.
Jamaica right now?
No, I'm saying the weather over here
Oh,
we're at is raining outside right now. It's not like we're just gonna hang up clothes outside.
exactly. Yeah. That was really a good one. That was a good one.
And
Do you feel like the washing machine, the advancement of the washing machine dryer, do you feel like that was an empowering um advancement, or do you feel like that caused dependency because you can't live without? Do you feel like you dependent, or do you feel like that invention is still empowering?
It's everything's got its, because
Pros and cons.
you talk about wringing out clothes, and I'm thinking, I remember when my nan used to make cakes, and she used to have the bowl. I'm sure we've all got this memory. She'd have the bowl and she'd beat the cake like this, and her arms would be going, and you know, it's that physical. One of the things we know about our modern day living is it's too sedentary. So things like wringing out the clothes and all that, you're doing things naturally that work your body and work your muscles. But I think the washing machine in particular makes me think about the emancipation of women from the household, because that's why women were at home most of the time back in the day, because they, you know, everything took longer. So for me to be free and actually go and sing a song and dance a dance and go and work a job and do all these different things, it's because I'm not in the house washing clothes from scratch and wringing things out. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. What about you? Shoot, Jesus, I'm sorry, guys. What about you, Adriana? What do you think? What
quiet.
technology? Yeah, you got it.
I'm quiet and I'm shaking my head because Caroline took my answer. Because
Oh, snap.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. Because I'm like, am I wanting to do those things you just described, like that, the vacuum cleaner, whatever the case may be? So I guess my backup answer that I've been mulling over, I would say, because of my neurodivergent brain, audiobook, like doing things and having access to things that can help me auditorily. Like I can meditate while listening to music at the same time. I can listen to a book at the same time I'm doing a workout. You know what I'm saying? Things that, and for me, like, if you overdo it, there can be a dependency, like with everything else, there's duality. But for me, I use it again as a tool, so it's efficient for me. Like if I'm trying to save time and I'm able to compound 2 or 3 things into one action, that's perfect for me. And that's something that I'm sure, like, my grandmother didn't have. You know what I mean? She, at best, she might have had a record player while she was cleaning the house or whatever, but she didn't have the rest of those things. And bunch of members of my family are neuros without that access. You know what I mean? So that's my second choice. But I'm with Caroline. Truthfully, I'm not trying to wring no clothes out or whatever the case may be. I can't imagine having carpet without a vacuum cleaner. It's easier to make tea in 2 minutes than like 10 to 15 on the stove, like stuff like that. Like
He said all of
really
my
think
house
about it,
appliances
that's
are
AI.
needed, baby.
Yes, all of that is AI. Like, well, I think that's something, that's a point that needs to be raised and put out there for people. AI isn't just what we're experiencing now. AI is the stove. AI is the iron. are those things. And I think that it goes over people's heads because we're so in tech depth right now. But technology has been around since, we invented another way to ignite fire. That's technology.
Okay.
But that's it for me. Anything that's auditory that I can do, yeah, that would be my jam.
I feel you. And before I pass it to Alma, let me just say, for me, I'm gonna say any type of electrical way of transportation. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't need a car. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. If there's a bus, there's a train. If there's a Uber, if there's a way, I love to walk, and I walk. I could walk 6 miles. I could walk, but I do not feel, and I don't care. I'll call it dependency. Call it what you want. How would I walk to another state? How would I walk to Connecticut? Or how would I walk to Jersey? No way. I need me some transportation expeditiously. Okay. And I'll pay. So that I'll say that for me. And with that, how you feel?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Got to get around, right? I did a sleep to get my license back, and the guy was telling me, he made a joke. He said, "The man who walks alone." Get your license and get back on the road. But I think about the supermarket, right? And it's advanced even from when I was growing up. Now you can order groceries through an app, and they arrive at your door. So you don't even got to go to stand in the line and check out anymore. I just don't see that as being something that I don't think I couldn't imagine functioning without. Because I could imagine living on a farm and doing those things, but not having to. I'm all right with that. You know, I'm not mad at it one bit.
I'm good.
But going into the next question, right? What piece of technology do we think could genuinely improve humanity if used correctly? Is something that I want to hear what you have to say about this, Caroline.
Oh, what piece of technology could genuinely help humanity? I think I do like the idea of robots and AI. I absolutely do. And in my mind, I'm not creating no dystopia with it. I think that, like, for instance, I think about care work because my mom used to do it. She used to look after the elderly. And she was telling me, we were talking again about it the other day, about when she was looking after my grandmother at the end of her life. And she fell over, and my grandmother is probably about 5'8", and my mom's like 5'3". But my grandmother's a decent sized woman, and she fell, and mom had to lift her. And I was just like, nah, I think I would have struggled with that, let alone you in your 70s doing that. So things like robots for like caring for the elderly. There is a massive gap in care workers. There's still a lot of people that are brilliant at it, but I think robots could really, and robots enhanced by AI or synthetics, could really boost and assist humanity and give us that kind of, I'm a believer, like I see the utopia where we live side by side and we no longer have to go and do certain jobs so that we can all go and do Tai Chi in the morning and then go to a baking class in the afternoon, and then in the evening go and sit with your neighbours. And I want to believe in that. So I do like robots. I think robots, AI and AI combined, working in harmony with humanity together, could be something really beautiful. I don't think that they're going to want to destroy us like the message that's being put out.
Now, I agree. I don't think the version of RoboCop is gonna, come to fruition. Well, not that it won't, but not like how it's portrayed in the Hollywood silver screen version. And I'm right with you on that. Like mixing AI with the robots, it's gonna cause the price of medicine to drop from where it's at. It's out of hand right now, and people might be against it right now, but there'll be less errors in surgery when you have these robots that are nanobots that can get in and make those repairs that need to be done and dissolve or whatever. And it's like, what used to take hours in surgery can now be done within a shorter time frame, and just cures that we're thinking about for things that seem uncurable. I think the advances in technology, we'll see something in the next maybe 5 to 10 years that we thought were impossible. What you thinking though, Adriana? Because I see that the gears turning.
Yeah, I like what you guys have said thus far, but my mind went to, I'm not sure the specific name of it, but the technology that repurposes things, whether it be certain things we no longer use anymore, certain things we've already thrown in the trash, or even as far as food is concerned, especially because there's a lot of food desert still, unfortunately. So I think any way where we can recycle and repurpose in a way that's efficient and can help people, I think that's the technology we need to lean into. And it's around, you know what I mean? But it's not as championed right now, and I feel like it should be. It's under the same umbrella as like AI, where people are nervous or whatever the case may be. But if it's going to help people not be on the street, if it's going to help people not go hungry, it's going to help people not, have as many health issues, I'm all for it. So I think that technology will really benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, sustainability in this ever overgrowing population, right? Mm-hmm. And people having more than they need. It's like 3 cars to a household in the community that I live in. So yeah, things just happen to build up. I was watching a documentary about it too, and that's something that could keep going on, but in thoughts of keeping this thing to a time where we can get through, we have another question that, before getting into that, I do want to hear Tone's build on this though. And
actually, right, because it's kind of hard to answer this question with me, because like, I'm gonna just hear me out. I don't know what's good for humanity. I truly don't know. People say we're messing up the ozone. Oh, we're messing up trees. What if, in true, everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and it's moving exactly the way it's supposed to be, and it's going exactly to where it needs to be, and everybody's playing the exact part? And I don't know, like, cause I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Who am I to say what humanity needs? I feel like if humanity was really in a place where it was dying, it would exfoliate, replenish, and it's so much more powerful than us, right? So I don't know. For my answer, I just feel like everybody just needs to be their authentic selves and then use the technology the way they best see fit, and just, I don't know, I don't know, because I don't know what's good for humanity, honestly. The older I get, the more I don't know. So you could have really didn't need my answer, but that's my answer.
No, that was a great answer. It's facts. It's also facts. You gotta just laid out the South State prophecy at the end. That's funny. Because what if we're on the trajectory we're supposed to be on, and certain things are supposed to look the way they look until we get to a certain point of intelligence, which we're also on our way on. I think you got a great point.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, because we know that everything that we get now has been around for time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's what I feel you gave was the kind of spiritual answer to it. Because everything is everything, and synchronicity and divine timing, and you know, like we see like this little, if I compare it to the light spectrum, when they say that, you know, we see something like 0.1% of the light spectrum. That's not correct, but I can't be bothered to Google it. So audience, Google it. But we see a tiny percent of the light spectrum, and animals see different things. You know, we can't see. We don't have night vision like they do, like nocturnal animals. So it's like, to me, that's what I'm thinking is like, we have this tiny little part of the picture, you know, and if you take out the whole element of time, it doesn't exist. And think about quantum reality, and everything's all happening at once anyway, you know, and we're jumping from timeline to timeline. If you start to think about all that, it's like, I want to be in the timeline where it's nice, you know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to tell you, you know, I think this. Can somebody come abduct me and take me to, you know, a different timeline, a nicer one?
You're in the good timeline, man. You're in the good timeline. It's just adjusting. It's just a point of change, but you're in a good. If we're in it with you, this is a great timeline.
I feel you, but Gerald, come on. Could have told me. I wouldn't have came back. I wouldn't have told nobody. But anyway, that's funny. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, guys. For the last question, well, not the last question, but this question I'm asking is, do you think technology is educating people or programming us? Right? And as I ask this question, I do want to ask because both Caroline and Emmanuel, I-AM-I, they both were just finished courses or in courses where they learning technological tools and advancements in that nature. So I wanted to honestly, like, as you answered the question, I kind of wanted to get you to speak a little bit on that, like the course, and how have you incorporated that in your everyday life, and in like how you move with technology nowadays in today's time. We're gonna end with you. So just keep that in mind. But Adriana, you could answer that. So you can give your take on that. I'm sorry. Did you hear the question? I'll repeat it. Do you think technology is educating us or programming us as people?
I think it's both. Like, again, with the duality, if you have an intention to educate yourself and also know that that's not the end all be all of education, then that's what it'll be. If you're dependent upon it and that's your end all be all, then it becomes dependent. Like, it depends on the mind of the person, you know, who's interested in the technology, the mind of the person that's using the technology, and the direction they take when they are using it. Like, when I would say, like, to jump onto the point that I made earlier about taking a break from social and then figuring out what that looks like for you after you've taken that break. That's a conscious decision. That's not a decision that everybody will make. I think if you're making conscious decisions like that, it might benefit you. That's just a personal opinion. But there are a lot of people who would disagree and say that this is the way of the world. So why do I need to take a break? So I think there's nuance to that. But for me, it's, it's balance. I'm all about balance.
Okay, Caroline, before you say that, I agree. It's about balance because it's very easy for you to go into from educating to being programmed. And I guess it all depends too on what you're consuming. Are you a scroller on Instagram or are you a researcher on YouTube? You know what I'm saying? So like it depends on what you're consuming too on a day to day, but balance is very important. Caroline, what about you? What do you feel? Do you feel like technology is educating people or is it programming us?
Yeah, I think we just have to I think the bottom line with this is that are you nefarious or are you benevolent? You know what I mean? Are you for the good of humanity or for the worst of it? And the rabbit holes you can go down if you start thinking about evil and negative, but your mind is creating your reality. You are magnetizing. So I'm not thinking about any negative version of it. I think you have to have self-control and see technology as a tool. If you really understand or understand your own power, it makes people ill being too involved with anything unnatural anyway. You start to get sick. If you watch TV all day, if you play PlayStation all day, or drink fizzy drinks, let's say that, sugary fizzy drinks instead of water, it gets, we all have our own meter. And I like to believe that humanity's meter is for the good. Even though we're programmed with this evil, negative stuff in films and that, I don't believe that to be true. And it just makes me think of, in terms of the balance of it and how you use it, and going back to some of the stuff we said earlier, I've been watching some of these people that are living off grid in America, in the States, because you got the land to do that, and they're building these like clay houses, or they're using like really old school traditional things that are used in places like Morocco and the Middle East, because they work and they're more stable buildings. But they're combining technology with it. So they've got solar panels and they've got washing machines and they've got, the ability to go on a laptop. And so they're off grid, but they're using technology to enhance a natural life. So, and there's countries, I think places like Japan kind of do that, so really that's, for me, that's what I think. It all comes down, sorry, my solar panel's banging away like crazy. It comes down to self, but we have a universal consciousness, don't we? So yeah, I cannot go down the dystopia road.
I kind of agree that the meter is more so for good as overall humanity, and I say that because, like, you think about it, that's why they do have to pump so much negativity out there for propaganda and programming. So it's like a fire starter or ignition. It's like if they don't do it, people naturally will more lean into their more softer side of their more like feminine, feminine side, not like girly side, but feminine softer side, right? So I feel like that is the reason why we get so much negative propaganda and all of that stuff. That's like the torch, or like starting the ignition to that. So I do feel like, yeah, it is more so on the good side, probably.
And just to add to the point you just made, is it's negative. There's the negative, but what is the negative doing? It's creating fear, because that's what pushes humanity to do stupidness. That's what pushes genocide. That's what pushes racism and divide and ageism and every, you know, schism-ism that you want to talk about. It has to have a baseline of fear. Because if we're not afraid of it, we're all right with it. We're not bothered until they say, all them black people coming to this country, they're taking the jobs. They're raping the women. They don't let them in your shop because they'll steal. Fear. So people have to live the reality and go, that's rubbish. They don't do that. They just told us they do that. You know, so I think it's negativity with the intention of creating fear, which is why it's important for us to just not be afraid. Because present moment awareness takes away the fear. Because right now, in this second, how are you doing? Are you alive? Are you breathing? Are you safe? Are you secure? Nothing to fear but fear itself, you know.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Indeed. So, with this question, I think it's worded in a way that makes it, for me, seem like tech does something in and of itself. But it's not, do I think technology is educating people or programming us? Those who present the technology, right? And then what is programming, right? Are we talking about social conditioning, behavioral conditioning, observational learning, ideological indoctrination, environmental or system design? Because all those could be a form of education, right? Some things are passed down through family, and that's how we get programmed. So I don't see program, like Caroline said, I don't see it as this negative thing. And for me, the tech in and of itself is doing nothing. So the question then is not really, do I think technology is educating people or programming us? Because either way, tech is not doing anything other than what we do with the tech. We just got to remember that we're in control. So
that's an excellent point.
That's where I'm at with it.
Dang, with that, I think you might as well lead right into the next part, because that's an excellent point. It's not really about
talking about being in control and you know, keeping that control. And there's a case was brought up for Meta, right? About a 6-year-old who became addicted to social media before even fully understanding herself. And is that a parenting issue, a tech issue, or a societal issue? Now, this is a touchy one, because being a parent, I'm not trying to put the blame on anybody outside of myself. So I can see that if I allow my son to go all day on the device, then is it Meta's fault? Sure, they're in the game for profit, so they want eyes on the screen as long as possible. So these platforms are engineered to be addictive by nature. But then I'm torn, because it's like, well, how did I let it get there as a parent? And then I think I would like to hear from Caroline as well, because we have, you know, almost around, she has a few years on me in being a parent. So I'd like to, you know, hear what you have to say about this one, because we're familiar with this topic and as far as how the case is going.
I think, as I said earlier, those few years are significant because my children weren't born into it. They was born into a world where it still didn't exist. So there wasn't even an option for me to give them a device with social media on or anything like that. But I'm with you, you know, I think people have to take responsibility for ourselves in anything. You know, the ego is a dangerous thing if you let it dominate you. And I know as a parent, intuitively, there's things that I know that you got to get them out of the house and give them fresh air. And you know, as hard as it was for me, I had an easier day if I strapped Millie on me, put Millie Ome in the buggy or whatever, and off we went outside every morning, just because they're happier like that, because it's natural. So you know, I struggle to see how I think parents bury their head in the sand because of the convenience. And I think the reality is people are, you know, we cannot deny what's happened recently with like cost of living and all that. So parents are distracted and they're busy. And if you can shut that pick-me up for 3 hours and get on with, you know, in their mind, it's like, I'm a freelancer and I need to make this money and I can't do this video call because every time I start, they're climbing on my lap and they're so just give them this. You know, I get it. I totally get it, especially as a single parent. But the damage that's being done. So I think I think like you, Emmanuel, I do take responsibility. And your intuition, regardless of what you're taught, there is an intuitive thing. We do know what is good and what's not good for ourselves and for our children. You know, especially if you are tapped in. But I think even people that aren't tapped in, I think sometimes they get the biggest hammering from the universe to pull them out. So yeah, that case, my first question when I heard about that case was, how is the child 6 years old on a device all the time? Where is that? Is that explained in the case or what? Because I'm like, that was impossible in my household. That couldn't.
That's the part that was left out, and you know, it's.
But they said that they won. They said they won the case.
But where were the parents though? Like, why is a 6-year-old allowed to sit and get addicted to Instagram? That's what I can't. How? Don't they go to school? Like, what's going on? There's a piece of the puzzle missing, and I have to look into the case a bit more.
What do you think about that, Adriana? That whole case and just where we're at as a society in regards to social media and its addictive nature.
First and foremost, all due respect to y'all and every other parent. I am not a parent. Let me start with that. So I'm gonna tread lightly on the experience of parenting because that would just be, you know, theoretical for me. But I think accountability is needed on all sides of the board. Like, sure, I agree with Caroline. There is accountability from parents who volunteer their children to be on social media all hours of the day. But then there's also, they go to school, you know, they're out in the world with their friends and they're exposed to the same stuff there too. So that, I could see how that could happen for a 6-year-old, especially in this days and time. As far as societally, there's accountability there too, because it's purposeful. Like, it's purposeful to become addicted to it, right? And then it's also purposeful to, as best as they can, block that exact information from people's sites. I think that's why a lot of people don't know. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. That's the internet as a whole. That's AI as a whole. If you're not searching for it, you're not going to find it. So if you aren't looking for the harms and the dangers of social media, you think it's the end all be all, and you're going to think it's the end all be all. So that societally is an issue, and also obviously corporately an issue. So I think as far as this case is concerned, that's probably why they won. Like, yes, there is accountability on the side of, I'm a parent, but parenting is a full-time job, and you also have to have another full-time job, and the world is the way that it is, and it's harder to be a parent, and it's also a full-time job that you learn while on the job. That part I know for sure. So even though, you know, they say this or that, you don't know what you're doing until you do it, which is why I started with the disclaimer that I'm not a parent. You know what I mean? And everybody parents differently. Like, my perception of what parenting looks like could be different from the next person. So that, I mean, that's it's a full spectrum issue as far as the damage, and it's a full spectrum issue as far as it being something great. No, I don't think 6-year-olds should have tech. I didn't have it at 6 years old, but I'm also 37. So that wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It might have been the computer, but even that was educational, and I was only in school. I think it depends on the society, it depends on the parent, it depends on the atmosphere. But at the end of the day, no, nobody that young should have that type of technology, especially all day.
And I think I fully agree with everything you said, and where it's took my mind before I forget it, before I lose it, is the responsibility of schools and education, because schools can be like the family home. They can vastly differ. You know, the schools can be side by side, and one school does this and another school does that. So it just took me to thinking about, my friend's got an 8-year-old, and she told me that the school are not giving books, they're giving them tablets. And she's had to say to the school, can you give him the book? We don't want him reading off a tablet, we want him reading a book. And when Ome was in preschool, so when she was 3, the school that she went to was quite old school, and the teacher that she had was an older woman. She was probably like late 50s. And they had the kids cutting fruit with sharp knives. The children cutting fruit with sharp knives at 3. And I loved it, because the reasoning was, if we teach them to cut with a blunt knife, it's actually more dangerous. Like, it's not that big a deal as long as they're supervised. But another school would go, absolutely not, that's a safeguarding issue. So when you put all these safeguards in place, when you wrap a child up in cotton wool, you know, they cannot develop, they cannot grow. So if the school is going, you can't play on the thing because you might fall off, and we're not going to give you a book to read, we're going to give you a tablet. You know, they are at school most of the time once they enter that school system. So school is massive. Fortunately for me, my girls are in schools that were quite adhered to the values that I adhere to. So they're quite old school, and they talk to the children like adults, and they push them beyond their age range. So when they were in junior school, they were learning senior school stuff. So give thanks that I was able to get my children in that kind of school. But if they're not, you don't know what their foolishness they might be telling your child. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. That's what I said. I was gonna say societal issue. It's always it always starts parental, but for that same reason that you guys just spoke on, I would say like societal, because it all comes back full circle. And if like you said, if the two schools aren't on the same page, then I'm talking about your homeschool, your home environment and your school environment, these two places, this happened. If they're not on the same page, then, you know, my nephew, he was just telling me 2 nights ago, he was telling me on Monday, starting on Wednesday, he can start bringing his tablet to school. He's in pre-K.
How old is pre-K then? For me, is in the I don't know what that means.
Well, he's 5 now. He's going to kindergarten in September, but he was born after September, after the cutoff. So he's in pre-K. So he's excited or whatever. So I'm talking to him. Good thing, like, he takes his time on his tablet. He's into drawing, so he does his drawing, but he's all excited. But I'm thinking in my head, like, they don't want to do nothing in the school, and they're not even providing school tablets. They're telling the kids, like, you can bring your tablets from home. Like, that's you already know what's going on there. They're not being bothered. So like then all those hours, and then the kid has to go home, and then the parent has to combat that now on the weekends. Obviously something happened where that they lost that case. So I felt like it's a societal thing, honestly.
Yeah, sorry, I've got to say it. There's a symbiotic relationship between school and home. And if that relationship is out of sync, you got problems, and you got a child in the middle of it. You know what I mean? And I think as much as we can say schools can be problematic, I speak to the educators through what I do. And I hear the other side, and I see the other side where the parents are the problem. So the children aren't being disciplined at home. They don't have proper boundaries at home. And they're on these devices, and their attention span's reduced, and their self-esteem's messed up. You got 10-year-olds coming in false eyelashes and full faces of makeup. Can't learn nothing. Won't do an assignment because they just go on ChatGPT, and their reasoning is, why do I need to think if I can get it off ChatGPT? So you've got educators literally pulling their hair out, because it's like these youngsters are wild. You know, they're wild. Some of them are wild. I've seen it. They don't have basic human self-discipline anymore. That's what happens if you take away the natural and replace with technological completely. So it is societal. It's societal, and it's at home. But I think what is going to be the regulator is going to be the individual.